podcast. I am your host, John Keene. As always, I would like to thank you guys for joining me. Ask that you please add, follow, and check us out. Instagram, Facebook, Best Damn Podcast, Twitter, The Real Best Damn, and wherever you're watching or you see this one from, make sure to hit that like, give us a thumbs up, leave a comment, let me know what you think, and make sure to share the link. It helps me to get it out there. That way, new people can see it. Um, Hopefully, we can get some people in here tonight. I don't know if this one will be censored or not. This one may be heavily censored. Tonight, we're going to be talking about. Well, let me just kind of give you a little bit of background. I had a subscriber the last time I was doing a stream, actually, refer me to Danny Jones' podcast and the Amon Hillman presentation. After watching it, I was mind blown. I don't know how many of you guys are actually like familiar with the drug of Theriac and the Black Death, but back in the Bronze Age, and and way before that, even, this particular drug was used for ritual purposes, for inducing like a state of mania or psychosis, to put people into an altered state of consciousness, right? Now we see all over, the world, really, through symbolism, the occult, and the ancient mysteries, and it's being it's being made very prominent too into the collective. We see things like, I got to be really careful like how I say things. Like I said, I don't even know if this one's gonna get viewed at all, honestly. But you guys know, the pedophilia, ritualistic sacrifices, symbolism. All of these things have been made so prominent and like put into the collective now, and there's a reason, right? There's a reason. I talk a lot about on this channel that at the end of cycles, whenever we in cycles, we come into higher states of conscious understanding, right? Literally raising the conscious vibration of the collective, as a whole. When we look back to like ancient antiquity, a lot of times it's kind of like mind-blowing, some of the ways they were able to work with technology, just the ways that they performed and practiced a lot of these rituals. And many people, because of the church in particular, they have this idea of who Jesus was, or who Jesus is to them, And we think of this role model person, right? This role model person that is this model of perfection, right, for humanity. This spiritual anointing. Some people even see him as God, right? And there's been entire religions and denominations and all of these things that have been created based off of this concept alone, right? So tonight I've taken quite a bit of notes on a few different verses, Mark 14:51 and 52, and just the context from what I've seen from Amon Hillman. I will do a follow-up probably on Patreon. I will do a follow-up probably on Patreon with probably a larger presentation where I can actually go into the Greek and show this firsthand. But tonight we're gonna, take a look at the references. And maybe I should have changed the title, for this one. Maybe that would have helped. I don't know if the algorithms will push this, but, we're gonna look at, did Jesus use children for drugs, right? For drugs. And I want you to think about all like the sex trafficking. I want you to think about all the pedophilia. I want you to think about all of the occult rituals and sacrifices and, all of the things that right? And when you think of like the elites and Satanism and, the occult, And it's all really going to make a shit ton of sense to you, you know, when you start to put the pieces together. To me, this was mind-blowing to me, some of the different revelations that I've had, you know, just from looking at this myself. And it's like, I'm not telling you to you know, to take my word for it on anything. I'm not telling you to, you know, believe what I believe, ascribe to what I ascribe to, or any of that, you know. But I am saying, keep an open mind whenever you look at these things, because you know, you got to think, like, years ago, when a lot of people were coming into, you know, a lot of this, and we really started to shift into a, you know, a higher state of consciousness as a collective. You know, it was revolutionary to say that, you know, we were worshiping Satan through modern religion, right? That the God of the Bible was in fact Satan. That was just, you know, that was considered blasphemy, right? And now it's become, you know, common knowledge, basically, right? A lot of people today would agree with that premise. So I do want to ask you guys to hit the thumbs up if you see this in the chat. Share this link, help me to get it out there. And I guess we'll get started. And make sure to subscribe too. Click the bell. That way you guys get all the notifications. I am just, like I said, I am fucking mind-blowing after some of the things that I've seen. Just looking into this myself. And I will put a link down in the comment section if you guys want to watch like some of the source material. I did post some of the original Greek translations on Facebook, here in the YouTube community section, for people that just want to kind of like look at it for themselves, you know, so you know that, you know, I'm not bullshitting. You know, this guy definitely that kind of like brought this to the world is not bullshitting. You know, Amon Hillman, he's a classicist, you know, an expert in Greek, you know. And when we think of the Greeks and the Greco-Roman world, all of the modern world, you know, was built by these people, right? And every time that we come to this pinnacle of consciousness and these, you know, shifts, or ends and cycles, you know, we see these mysteries, you know, right there, you know. So let me know if you can see me and you can hear me. So if you guys are in the chat, I do appreciate you. So now we're going to start first with just, you know, reading the verse that this information comes from, and it is Mark 14:51, and it says that a young boy wearing nothing but a linen garment was following Jesus when they seized him, right? A young boy was wearing nothing but a linen garment, was following Jesus when they seized him or arrested him. Thank you, Majestic Gift. I appreciate that. I really don't expect many people to see this. I really don't. I probably should have changed the title in the thumbnail, but you know, I don't give a fuck. Fuck it. You know, and then 14:52 follows up by saying, and the kid dropped the bandage and he ran off naked. Okay, so, and to kind of like give this a little bit of a concept, this is shortly after the Last Supper had taken place, where Jesus and his 12 disciples, which according, you know, to this kind of like train of thought or this stream of thought, and that's just, you know, that's where we're going to go. So don't think that, you know, this is my core belief or anything like that. I believe, like, anybody that truly has an open mind and is truly seeking knowledge, truly seeking wisdom, truly seeking understanding, you know, they have no problem with challenging the things that they believe. They have no problem, no issue, you know, with something that may contradict what they believe to be true, or, you know, what they hold as their core values and beliefs, right? And if we're really seeking truth, which is, you know, supposedly the name of the game, right, for a lot of people, I don't believe that. I believe most people just want to reinforce their own ideologies, their own beliefs, their own dogmas, you know, and that's what they look for. And if you think about our current society, and what the internet actually does, it does just that, right? through the algorithms, they create an echo chamber, right? To kind of like slap back at you, you know, just that, your dogmas, your beliefs, right? The things that you subscribe to, right? And that's why everybody has an opinion and everybody thinks that they're right, you know, to this day. You know, people aren't looking to hear opposing views. People aren't looking to hear anything different. You know, they just want to be told how right they are, and they just want to be told that, you know, their version, especially when it comes to religion and politics and things of that nature, is right. So, like I said, 1451, it says a young boy wearing nothing but a linen garment was following Jesus when they seized him or arrested him. And the kid dropped the bandage and fled off naked. So this kind of takes place after the Last Supper, right? Jesus was the 12 disciples or the apostles, which in this stream of thought are their boys, right? They're children. They're prepubescent boys. And in Mark 1451, it takes place in the Garden of Gethsemane. Peter, James, and John are keeping watch, actually, you know, guarding Jesus, guarding him, right? And then Jesus takes the naked boy that is assigned to him, which assigned to him means like a slave, right? Somebody that's assigned to him, right? Meaning Jesus has, you know, dominion over this kid. And if you think about, you know, all of this is taking place, you know, right after the Last Supper, where Jesus sends out the disciples, you know, says, you know, go to them, tell them that, you know, you're one of Jesus's kids and that he needs a place to stay, right? Or he needs a place to party, or he needs a place, right, to celebrate, right? And then go in this upper room where they begin washing feet. And according to this stream of thought, the whole process of washing feet in these ancient times was something where they actually, they stripped down naked to do this, right? So, you know, why would a grown-ass man, you know, be in a shady place with a, you know, a bunch of naked boys, right? Why would this very same, you know, grown man, and I want you to think too, like the Catholic Church and all of this, you know, like why is the shit so prominent today if there's no root or background, you know, in, you know, that kind of like supports what they're doing, right? Did they just pull all of this shit out of thin air? Did they just start, you know, deciding to be predatory towards children out of thin air, right? These initiated and these ancient mysteries, and we've talked about, you know, the back door being a place of initiation, right? And that's the vagus nerve, right? What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, right? And that this is a way to make the kundalini rise, okay? The opening of the pineal, right? And this pineal being your third eye, or essentially the antenna to God, right? So now in this garden or this park, you know, what allegedly happens is these three disciples are keeping watch while, you know, Jesus and a naked boy are hanging out there, right? Peter, James, and John are keeping watch, and Jesus takes a naked boy assigned to him, you know, into the middle of the garden. The young man is wearing nothing but a linen garment, right? And was following Jesus when they seized him. Now, Greek, the young boy being assigned to him is having his penis wrapped in a medicated bandage. And, you know, and this is like too, you know, when you think of a lot of the translations, and we see this, it's very common, you know, especially on this channel when we've talked about, you know, things of how now in English, when we look at the word angel, just, you know, just for an example, we look at the word angel, you know, it deriving from something totally different than the idea that we have of it today, right? You know, and, you know, we think of some celestial being. Some people think of, you know, aliens and all of these different, you know, concepts when it comes to the word angel, but it actually means a supreme magistrate or a heavenly host or a luminary. It's a fucking star, right? And if we can, mistranslate, misunderstand something as simple as that, or, what we think of when we think of an idol, right? We think of like a piece of fucking wood or stone or a statue, and that all of these ancients were so stupid, right? That they're worshiping this shit, right? Not understanding that an idol also, is being misinterpreted. It's an actual image, the phantom, the projection, the illusion of the physical self, right? And that is talking about, worshiping the self, So if we can have these common misconceptions with this, right? If we can have these common misconceptions with, that has led us to create these religions, and these entire belief systems where people have went to fucking wars and done all types of atrocities in the name of these things, then why would it be so, outlandish or outrageous, for us to miss this as well, right? Now, the Greek word for the boy is called Nanias, and Naniaskus is a diminutive of something meaning a small boy, right? So when we're looking at the translations of the words, they are in fact talking about a child, and not just a boy or a young man. This is actually like a prepubescent a child, right? We also see that Jesus being referred to as a pedagogy or a pedagogue, which is one who raises children, right? Raises children. And they call them kentaurons, right? Kentaurons, which derive from the word centaur, right? And centaur, comes from, Chiron, right? And this takes us to, the Greek, and we see Heracles, who, which comes from Chiron, right? And he has his boy Hylas. We look at Zeus, who has Ganymede, and we see this kind of play out, over and over and over, this same concept where, even deity itself, always has this relationship of man to child, right? Father to son, or so on and so forth, and even looking at, the concept of Mary Magdalene, and her being referred to as a paidiscus, right? Or a paidiscus meaning an underage prostitute, right? And underage in those times wasn't like, being fucking, 18 years old like we see today. Underage in those times meant before puberty, okay? Now, when we think about, why he was hanging out with the people he was hanging out with, prostitutes, why he was so known for loving the children, why there was such this, this outrage for, in a crowd, literally, had gathered, chanting, crucify him, right? Crucify him. It's like, was this really all because he was, out in town square, teaching spirituality and religion? That doesn't even make a lot of sense, does it? Does it? When you really truly think about it, if you went to this, a city today, there's always a nut job standing on the corner, people like myself, right, that are talking about spirituality, that are talking about religion, that are talking about God, and I imagine no matter how far back in ancient antiquity we go, that would be, no different, So to have this concept or this idea where, they're plotting on him to murder him, right? These priests, okay? These Pharisees and these Sadducees, right? Plotting on him to have him murdered. A conspiracy to unalive his ass. A crowd gathered. And everywhere he goes, do you notice too how he's always like ducking the fuck off, right? He's always like fleeing and ducking off and secreting himself off, right? And there's always him sending the kids ahead of him, right? To find this place to go, to find a place to, to stay, right? And being welcome, right? always this association with prostitution, always this association with loving children, right? We're seeing the same kind of like recurring themes. And when you think about it, it really starts to make sense, and it really starts to sink in that something is very off. How can a religion, right? How can a religion that, it's so evil. You look at Christianity, and you look at an anagram of the word, and it actually is in itself antichrist, right? Rearrange the letters, rearrange the letters. It's antichrist. How can these religions where, all of the popes, the bishops, the priests, the pastors are constantly caught in these scandals where they're doing things to children, where they're bringing harm to defenseless people, right? Where they've made money, off of your ignorance, keeping you in the dark, right? Capitalizing on your lack of knowledge, where, there was this, and why was there such a big fuss over, the whole Protestant Reformation, where, people were actually protesting to be able to read these scriptures, these words themselves, right? What was there, what was so secret? What was so hidden? What was so wrong that they didn't want you to catch it? Why is there so many translations, so many different variations, right? And if you look at the references of the lexicon and the people that were actually writing these original Greek translations, the ones that actually support this stream of thought or this stream of consciousness are the ones that would be, the most informed, in ancient antiquity as well. Now, I'm not an expert in Greek language, right? Or anything like that. So, I can't speak to that. I can only speak of what I was able to research myself and find myself on this, But we do know that Jesus was also crucified between two lastus, right? Which was the same thing as what I was just referring to, those that, raise the children. And that these sacred mysteries, right? This whore of Babylon, and we see the colors of purple and scarlet, and this reference to the Theriac and the Black Death, and we think about literally, black plagues and black deaths, spreading, throughout, ancient antiquity as well. Is this just this giant fucking coincidence where all through history we've seen references that are supporting, that are not just supporting, but they're confirming, that there's so much more to what we are able to understand or what we're being told, And then, when we look into the occult and symbolism and theater and media and things of this nature, right? And how, the Romans, they created, these theaters and gladiators and chariot races and all these different things to kind of purify the masses, right? Because they didn't have access to, these mysteries themselves. So they put it out there in a form of symbolism, right? To try to take the baseness away from what they were doing, because there was this lack of understanding even then, right? Not everybody had access to these mysteries. Most of these people were in fact initiated into these ancient mysteries through cults and things like that, and they did it in temples, and they had oracles that they followed, and these oracles were in fact on drugs, right? In these altered states of consciousness. Even today, we're now finding that, dimethyltryptamine and psilocybin and ketamine and all these different variations of drugs and chemicals, these chemical compounds, whether natural or synthesized, have this profound effect on the brain, this profound effect on human consciousness, and even have the ability in some cases, and some believe, to open up portals, access to other worlds, other dimensions, right? Through altered state of consciousness. How many people, and I'd really like to know this, through your process of awakening, experience temporary states of psychosis? I did. I have. I know when I've been in extremely high states of consciousness, and this is after being exposed. And we got to understand too that language is powerful. It has the ability to speak to the unconscious, right? It has the ability to speak to the unconscious. This is why through ritual, right, the Word. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, right? The Word allows us to direct our intent and our energy or our conscious stream into the ether, right? It allows us to channel, our intentions into a particular direction for a particular outcome, right? And attract or repel energies that we are trying to attract and repel through our language, right? Without our language, matter of fact, we would not have consciousness. We wouldn't have, this awareness that we have and the ability to express, our conscious state of being and reflect on our conscious state of being. And if you think about the whole concept too of, the heavenly host, which God being the Lord of hosts, these heavenly hosts, right, or luminaries or supreme magistrates or stars or gods or whatever, variation of the word, depending on whether you go to Hebrew or Greek or whatever, is where all of these things originate, in this being outer space, right? And remember, into the occult, outer space represents outside of the collective conscious, right? Outside of the collective conscious. So if we look at outside of a collective conscious, we're speaking about the collective unconscious, right? And this being, this realm of darkness, and look about all the symbolism too, in movies and things like that, right? The upside down in Stranger Things. If you guys have ever, seen that, it's this, this dark realm, right? They use portals to access this, right? Where they find, 7, which, or what, 11 is her name, right? 11, is that her name? 11. And then we think about 11, right? 11, right? And she has these superpowers or super conscious abilities, right? And the ability to tap into this alternate realm or this alternate dimension. And it gives her, the abilities of like telekinesis and telepathy and all of these different, things. The show Raised by Wolves, right? Where there's the two groups of beings, right? There's this war on Earth, right? They go leaving the Earth, and one of them are scientists, right? Because science, right? Cien means to divide, right? And we live in this oneness, this wholeness, this unified energy field, right? Or this unified conscious field, okay? So the only way that we can actually examine this unified state of being is in fact by dividing it, right? Having the ability to divide it, separate it, and look at this too, right? And we have the atheist, right? The ones that, and the scientist in this form of symbolism where, they use science and, not God to like understand. It's really just a big giant version of fucking metaphysics, right? Right? The sacred sciences are in fact, part of the mysteries, part of the occult, part of, hermetics, right? And remember, occult just means hidden. That's all it means. Hermetics, Hermes, just means sealed. That's all it means, right? Hidden from the masses, hidden from the collective, sealed, right? Within a mystery, right? Within a mystery, it's sealed. And then you have the others, right, who are the Mithraics, right? The sun worship, which would be this version of Christianity. And what's their leader do? He gets poisoned by a black poison, a black death, like Theriac, right? And he gains these fucking superpowers and these super abilities and has this super state of consciousness. You're seeing the symbolism, be fed to you over and over and over, right? Why do they do this? Because of this power of language and image. It speaks to your subconscious, even though you're not in a state of awareness to be able to actually intellectualize or wrap your head around what's being said or what's being shown. Your unconscious works in such a way that it has pattern recognition. There's parts of your brain where these neurons are firing back and forth, right? And it's making certain neurons fire in a certain pattern or a certain systemic way in order to create a certain result, right? Because that is the energetic flow, right, being directed by the intention of the command of the word, right, which is a vibration, right, being put out into the ether. And I know that this kind of sounds like it's way the fuck out there, but it's kind of makes you wonder, why did all of these Knights Templars and all this, why was there all this divine feminine worship, which we come back today, and what are we doing? Worshiping the divine feminine once again, right? And we see through religion, where after everything has been Christianized through society, right? And we think of what our modern kind of translation of Christ, right, really is. It's Christos, or it means to the anointing, right? The anointing, right? Many people believe this anointing comes from that sacred secretion of the pineal gland, right? This opening of the third eye, right? And if you think about the whole concept of sunlight and everything, guys, the sun actually blinds us from our own light is what actually takes place. Yes, the sun feeds energy, information, awareness to us. We're receiving that constantly, right? But why does every occult system of Solomonic magic and all of this actually revolve around the lunar sphere, right, and the moon, right? Because in this physical representation, in this image that we are in fact in, everything from the Sephiroth, or the tree of life, channels down into that lowest sphere, right? Which is, silver. It's this representation of all of the different, colors combined, or all the different energies combined, right, through the lower or the lesser self, right, through our carnality, right, through sex and reproduction. And that's why we see, everything from the Ouroboros, which is the symbolizing of the serpent devouring its own tail, right, and the serpent's mouth being a vagina, its tail being a penis, and we see all the phallic symbolism from the obelisks and monoliths and all of this, right, throughout ancient antiquity, right, and all over the entire fucking world, the same exact worship, right? Think about the ancient Egyptians and the level of society that they were able to obtain, and what were they doing? They were putting everything on copper. Why? Because it's the metal of Venus, right? This same cult energy, right? The cult of Aphrodite, right? The goddess of love, right? And when we take Aphrodite and combine her, the feminine, with Mercury, which is mercurial, right? He's the messenger of the gods, right? He's the mind, he's the intellect, he's Lucifer, which is the intellect as well, right? And we see this Luciferian worship, right? As above, so below, the Baphomet, this paradoxical reality being expressed, right, through that symbolism of this lucky, right, enlightenment, right? And it becomes what? Hermaphrodite, right? Hermaphrodite, an androgynous being. What is the Antichrist even described as? An androgynous being. What are the angels described as? Androgynous beings, Why do you think as we shift into the age of Aquarius, we see this trans agenda being pushed so fucking hard? It's the androgyny, right? Everything's bi. Everything's trans. Transhuman, transgender, bisexual, right? We are bipolar. We live in a, you know, our everything being magnetic in nature, electrical and magnetic. Those are the forces of attraction and repulsion at the base of reality, right? Electricity representing that light and the magnetism representing that darkness. Think about the concept of Nemesis, Nibiru, dark stars, and all of this. This goes back to ancient antiquity as well. You can see this in the Enuma Elish when they're talking about the concept of Marduk, right? Him being Nibiru, right? Nibiru being Jupiter, right? Jupiter, Zeus, Jove given, Jehovah, right? The same thing. Everything that we've ever studied or looked at on this channel supports exactly what this guy's saying in one way, shape, form, or facet. You know, all of the satanic ritual abuse, you know? The MK Ultra and the mind control. The hidden hand, right? This hidden hand that operates in the darkness, kind of pulling the strings of consciousness, right? And how is it doing so? How is it doing so? By forcing this debaucherous, base, distorted energy onto the masses, right? Creating this psychological trauma, forcing us to metamorphosize into this healed society, this healed, enlightened version of society where we have to overcome these things, these distortions, where we now, and you can't tell me too that there isn't this kind of like modern renaissance that's taking place, where people are now becoming far more interested in metaphysics, where people are becoming far more interested in self-help, where people are becoming far more interested in spirituality, you know, and the quantum world and consciousness and all of these things just in general, right? Why? Because we're at the end of a cycle once again, and that conscious stream is available to us once again. You know, we talked about many times that, you know, through the laws of attraction, right? In polarity, that the more that something is pushed onto us, the more we will repel into the opposite way. It's human nature, you know. So when they describe things as being evil, as being dark, as being satanic, as being all of these different things, you know, this is a form of neuro-linguistic programming. These words have a negative connotation into the masses, right? When we hear the word Satanism, you know, most people are like, oh, never, right? I'd never do that, right? We hear the word ritual, this rite, which, you know, it's a cycle or an orbit or a pattern, right? An energetic pattern that is being repeated, circumambulated, right? Over and over, right? Because all of us are operating from the macro to the micro at this smaller scale of the soul system, right? We're learning to break outside of the box, right? This Saturn moon matrix, right? Saturn being that all-father energy, that moon being that luna, that representation of that carnal. You know, and it makes you want to ask yourself too, you know, like, how many people are even willing to entertain the idea that Jesus, you know, was one of these, you know? The more we look into like Mary and Joseph or Josephus or the cult of Set and all of that, where it actually derives from, and the Phoenicians and all of that, right? the more that we see that there in fact was a lineage. And Jesus was a carpenter, which means he was a mason. He was a builder. Right? And what is Freemasonry built on? Right? Heliopolis, right? The two pillars. Right? These two pillars representing the Temple of Solomon. What is the Temple of Solomon? What did Solomon do? Right? Solomon, which Sol, Om, On, or moon, right? Sol, as in sun, Om, right? And On, which we've talked about the Dogon, right? And On being the sun as well. Or you can see it as Mon or as a moon, right? Sun and moon, sun, Om, moon, right? Solomon, right? Known as the wisest man who ever lived, right? He built his temple with demons, right? We look at the story of Enoch and these 200 watchers or messengers or luminaries or celestial energies that had fallen, right? And they taught us these different things from like, witchcraft and metallurgy and to put makeup on our eyes and create jewelry, right? And we think about, pre-Diluvian, pre-flood, right? And these Nephilim, right? Or fallen, meaning a fallen entity or consciousness, right? Or these giants, right? Meaning huge in conscious stature. Huge in conscious stature. Not physically big. Consciously big. Energetically big. Aurically big. Big in awareness. Big in mind. Big in concept. Big in spirit. And we think about these cycles and these ages, right? And these giants, right? That had this crazy ability. And what happened to them? They had the sun removed from their face, was cast into darkness and thrown under the rocks. Right? Meaning they derive in an alternative reality. An alternate reality. That dark star, that nemesis, that Nibiru, that planet X or Hex. Or, remember, the Hex is, the geometric pattern or shape, right? For Saturn, Satan, Hasatan. Right? Who is the serpent? Who is the dragon? And these are all stories about these two dragons as well, these two energies, these two pillars, right? These two pillars, the red and the blue. And when you're able to make the two become one, right, you get this color of purple, this flaming purple, this Theriac, right, this black death. Right? That brings about the process of enlightenment. Right? The process of initiation. Think about every great alchemist. What were they doing? They were transmuting the human body. Transmuting energy from one state into another. The water of life, eternal life. And it really starts to blow you away when you really sink deep into this and you're like really start to grab a hold of it. And I think what really hangs people up on it is, one, they don't have access to it. Right? They don't have the background information. They haven't done what a lot of us have done and spent the last fucking decade or more, studying these mysteries, studying these texts, right? And studying all of these things. And through process of elimination or whatever, right? Kind of like marking shit off the list saying, okay, well, this is an understanding, but it's an understanding at a low level of consciousness. And right, remember, consciousness, this is like waves, guys. Frequencies of waves. Just because we have one understanding doesn't mean that it's wrong, right? It's just you are where you are. And I kind of like try to describe a conscious perspective as just that, right? Say that you're at an elevation of 2,000 feet, right? Your view is going to be everything from 2,000 feet, right? Say you're at a zero elevation, you're right on the ground, right? Your perspective is going to be from the land, right? You're going to see everything in a way of land, right? And when you look up, things are going to appear very far away from you as you're looking towards, the sky, the higher state of being. But if you're at this 20,000 feet, 30,000 feet, right? It's a bird's eye view. You can see all the fields of quantum consciousness. And think about it, it is a quantum field, right? We have everything simultaneously coexisting at different frequencies, at different states. They're vibrating constantly at different frequencies. So why would we think that our streams of consciousness are any different? And it's like if you've been groomed and conditioned, right, to see everything from ground fucking level your whole life, you're going to make everything physical. Jesus is going to be a man who was killed on the cross. It's going to be this, blood ritual, right, for our sins. You're going to get the exoteric version of what we understand God to be through religion, right? God in the sky and, all of these things. Once you start to get into, and we peel the layers of this onion off, right? While looking into the mystery, which is ourself, we start to get a different perspective, a different take on things. Now we're able to see it very differently, from a Gnostic perspective, which means gnosis or knowing, right? We're able to see things as, oh, wow, all of these energies make up this demiurge, right? This one antagonist energy, right, that we're constantly at odds with. Why? Because we need that conflict in order to hold the fucking reality together. That's why you have two hemispheres of your brain. That's why your brain operates in fucking binary code. That's why we have these two pillars, right? And that's why the entire fucking system is built on this. The sun, the moon, the red, the blue, the black, the white. It's that conflict, that resistance that allows everything, this entire experience, to be able to even exist. And as we start to dive deeper, deeper, and we're going, and remember, the only way out is in, right? And that's the whole concept, the Jungian concept of circumambulation, right? Where we begin this process of orbiting, right? This orbiting, or this cycling of the self, right? Dark nights of the soul, right? Where we're faced with our own darkness, right? This darkness, it acts as a mirror, reflecting back at us our distorted versions of ourselves. Now try to think too, whenever we look at the concepts of Solomonic magic, right? Enochian magic. What are they actually summoning? What are they actually doing? What are they actually talking to when they're doing these things? When they're playing with these keys? These are the collective unconscious fragments of humanity. All of these demons, all of these energies, right? Remember, demons are, the demons, domains, right? Personas, masks, right? Each one, it's an energetic frequency or an archetype that embodies a particular part of all of us. Because we are all the son of our own system. That's why, if you look at like your zodiac sign, right? I'm a Virgo, which it's, we're in Virgo season now. It's my birthday month. Love Virgo season. Why? Because my soul, right, came into this realm, right? Just like the sun sits in Aquarius or in Pisces and amplifies a particular energy, my sun, my star, my fragment set in the energy of Virgo when I was born. Right? So I amplify that Virgo energy. Right? I hope that makes sense, because everything is a micro to the macro. It's all a fractal or a fragment of that one. And we see that it's proven through the Fibonacci sequence, the golden ratio, pi, right? All of these things kind of tell us this is a repeating pattern, We're all this divine spark of this one infinite creator. And they're in fact in these cults and in these rituals, and we know too, or at least we think we know. Do we know really anything? We think we know. That these pyramids, what they actually were able to do, these pyramidal structures all over the earth that actually sit on energetic ley lines, because there is an earth grid, because there isn't a collective consciousness, right? Like it's the internet of consciousness. That's why the internet is man's attempt to create a medium from that dark mirror, right, in a direct connection, a direct line of communication to the physical, to the image, right? We're 3D creatures, right? But we're in fact, a shadow of a fourth dimensional being, right? A fourth dimensional being fed by higher energies, higher dimensional, That's why when we tap into those, and then we think about this great flood, which was the beginning of this Piscean age, and we think about the fall, right, of Lucifer, which is the intellect, right? We think about all of this, in this age of water. It was this shift where we became totally physically minded, right? Based on survival, based on, the physical as a whole. Where we lost connection with those unconscious parts or fragments of ourself, right? We lost connection, we lost contact with that. Now I want you to think about a seance or a ritual or a rite. What are we doing when we do these things? What are we doing when we channel? What do we do as mediums? Right? Why are we even considered ourselves mediums? Right? Because we're between two worlds. Right? In the dream world, this higher, illuminated energy, and then this dark star, this mirror, right? And Earth is like this place where the two meet, that soul luminescence, or star in a jar, star in a jar. It's where we have this prism, right, of the field. These energies from the stars, these luminary energies, are separated, right? They're separated into spectrums or beams of light, right, which we call the rainbow, which correlate to the 7 chakras, which correlate to the 7 days of the week, right? So the 7 main planets, so on and so forth, right? And then we look at the 12 archetypes of every person, right? The 12 main archetypes and how they correlate to the 12 zodiacal signs, right? There is a code or a pattern within all of these texts. The code or the pattern is not one to be interpreted literally all the time. We can interpret it in a multitude of ways, and we should. We should interpret it, from an external, exoteric understanding you know, to understand how it manifests into a physical state of being. Right? It just kind of allows us to see how that flow, that transference of energy, right? But we also have to see it, within this, this individual. It has an anatomical state where it correlates to the fucking organs of our body, right? Every organ, every body part correlates to an energy, including, that's why there's, this major industry for wisdom teeth, right? How many people have their wisdom teeth? Do you know why? Because there's a direct connection from the wisdom teeth to the pineal, right? Every part of the body is like this unique instrument, right? This unique instrument that we are to be able to channel all of these different energies. We think about the children of the law of one, right? And how it talks about, this primordial state of being where we were all part of one consciousness, and then we created the earth as this realm or dimension to be able to play, right? To be able to play. And as we took form and created in combinations of our favorite things, man and, a fucking bird head, or, all of these different entities of ancient antiquity, which are part of that collective unconscious, those fragments, those watchers, those fallen that we see in the Book of Enoch, right? That were pre-flood, those giants, right? Gigantos, right? Nephilim. We see these parts of ourselves, and this was us on our way down, right? In a higher state of understanding, and it says that we trapped ourselves, right? We trapped ourselves. And then think about Enoch. What happened? The light was removed from our face, putting us forever in darkness, and we were under the rock. What is the rock? It's the living rock. The stone, the cornerstone, the stone the builders rejected. The Christ, the Christos, the anointing. Right? And if we look at like what Amon Hillman is actually saying, he's saying, Christ is, the dote, and Antichrist is the, antidote, the dote and antidote, right? And that is medicinal. And we do know for a fact, everything on earth, right? Every sickness, every dis-ease, which is energetic dis-ease, right? Disruption or distortion in the auric field or in the energy fields of our body, the flow of energy. That there is an antidote by some, plant or medicine here on earth. Why? Every single molecule, we have every molecule found on earth within the human body. Every molecule. Every plant, every animal, every everything. Transcending duality is the path to ascension. It is, but what are we willing to accept though? That's the real question. Even for this YouTube channel, this is a very low number in the chat tonight. And why is that? Because even people that consider themselves to be awake or aware or whatever, aren't willing to even entertain the idea of something like the title suggests. Right? Why? Right? It offends that their ego, right? In their ego self, they believe that they have this, knowledge, understanding, or grasp of things to such an extent, right, that it can't even be challenged, right? Not even by themselves. They can't even think outside that box because they themselves are still in the womb, which, that's the Hebrew for matrix, right? It means a womb, right? It means a womb. That's why everything kind of refers to birthing pains and shit like that, right? Because these ages, these cycles, that's what we're doing. We're like caterpillars, you know, becoming butterflies. Each cycle, each age, we're coming out or blooming or, you know, budding or coming out of another womb, a new expression of ourself, right? A newer understanding. And see, and that's why, you know, social media it's a beautiful, wonderful tool because it allows us, you know, to use a medium to be able to connect on that conscious stream with one another. But, you know, it's also a detriment too, just like any other tool, you know, because at the same time, you know, you can have the ability to expose yourself to different ideologies, to different schools of thought, right? And really challenge yourself. You know, and if what you know or what you believe you know is the truth and you stand on that truth, you know, then nothing I say or anyone else says should ever be able to offend or undermine that, right? If it's true, it stands on its own. You know, if it's true, the truth stands on its own. It's self-evident. You know, it doesn't need defense. God doesn't need your fucking defense. You know? And think of every great philosopher through antiquity too, you know. What made them great was the ability to question, the ability to challenge not only themselves but everyone around them, right? And what they perceive to be reality and what they perceive to be right. You know? And if you think about Christianity, and this being the symbolism of morality, right? The symbolism of morality or virtue, right? We consider it to be, you know, the basis of our moral culture. And if it in fact derives from something like, you know, what's being suggested here, from rites or rituals, you know, from you know, from the ingesting of hallucinogenics, and these rites or rituals, these antidotes were, you know, in fact attained through, you know, the antibodies from pre-ejaculation and, you know, things like that from prepubescent, you know. And you start to really look at these cults, and that's, you know, that's exactly what we see still to this day. And if anybody's ever read books of like the life of Jesus and the Aquarian Gospels of Jesus the Christ and all of these things, what you're going to find is that, you know, in these books, he traveled the world into these, you know, other places, right? The ancient pyramids and, you know, India and all of this, and had these different experiences and exposures to these other mysteries or cults, you know. And even one version of the story talks about him killing or sacrificing a kid when he was a boy, right? And then he was teaching in the synagogues when he was prepubescent. Sounds like that same type of like grooming that we see today, right? Where they're groomed from a very young age into this culture of this you know, pedo shit. You know, why does he say things like they hated me first? They hated me first. They'll kill you in my name. Right? Or that anyone who harms one of these little ones, these children, right? It'd be better to have a millstone thrown around their neck and be thrown into the depths of the ocean, right? Why is that? Because the ocean represents these ethers, right? The waters above and below the firmament, right? to be thrown into that darkness, that dark star, that mirrored reality, that upside down, right? Have access to that alternative reality, that alternative state of consciousness. You know, this is a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow, but it's like, just ask yourself in Mark 14:51 and 52, why the fuck at 4 in the morning was Jesus in the garden with a naked boy? I mean, I think that question alone is just worth asking. It's worth asking. You know, why when the guard came to arrest him, and he got arrested with this naked boy. Nobody in church has ever brought this up, by the way. I've never heard a sermon preached on this one. You know, in the Garden of Gethsemane, why was he in the garden at 4 a.m. with Peter and John and, you know, keeping watch, when he's in the middle of the garden with a naked boy who's wrapped in a medicated linen around his penis? What the fuck? Why when the cops came did the fucking boy take off running and drop the linen and ran? Why did he tell them, you'll deny me 3 times before the rooster crows, right? You'll deny being my disciples. Why was there a crowd already fucking gathered yelling, crucify him? Why were the Pharisees and the Sadducees plotting his fucking murder, his unaliving? You know, if we truly, and most people will not, you know, open ourselves up and just ask the question. Asking the question is dangerous. Just asking the question alone means that you have to find an answer within your fucking self. You know, and like I said, go to the community section. I put the old Greek translations. It's on there, right? You can find it. You can look at it yourself, right? Go to my Facebook, same thing. You know, I'll post it on Twitter too. You know, for people. Anywhere you want to go, I'll have it up there. You go look for yourself. Ask yourself the question, if you're a true truth seeker, you'd be willing to, you know, to entertain the answer no matter what it was. It wouldn't be built on your dogma. It wouldn't hinge on what your preconceived notion of what you think happened, you know, really is. You know, it's like, and that's the thing. That's the thing. You know, people they've found themselves in this place now to where, you know, we have our preconceived notions and ideas how shit went down. It's like we do nothing but pretend to research, right, to support our own ideologies and dogmas. We're not actually looking for answers. You know, it's such a rare group, you know, of people that truly want the truth. The truth is unpleasant. You know, it comes at a cost. You know what that cost is? I'll tell you what the cost is. It's your identity. It's your identity. It's the ideas that you built up in your mind, the way that your perception of the world. You know, whenever you go through self-initiation in the process and you start to see that everything that you believe is lies, that the world you built your reality on, what happens? People's lives goes to shit. People's lives go to shit. Right? Why? Why do people's lives go to shit? Why does all their relationships suffer and they lose friends and family and fucking, you know, spouses and all of this when they have true awakening? Why? because everything they built was built on a lie or a false notion, a false conception of the way that things are. Well, and as you should, Veritas, as you should, right? Illuminated Veritas says, I don't deny Jesus. I just don't subscribe to anything I'm told to believe by anyone. I decide what the world and God looks like, and that's true. That's true, as you should, right? I'm not telling you to subscribe to my ideas or my beliefs, and I know you wouldn't anyways. I actually know you well enough to know you wouldn't. I know you're in no danger of that. Hold on, guys. Let me plug in this charger. There we go. I think we got it. I know you wouldn't do that. I know you wouldn't subscribe to anybody's ideas or beliefs. You know, and a lot of people, you know, that's been viewers of this channel for a long time would not. You know, but there is a number of people that would, though. You know, and have. You know, we all get our ideas and our concepts from some type of source material, right? It's up to us to be able, and that's why discernment is so big in the Bible. It's like you start to really understand, right, like what discernment actually means now. You know, it's the ability to look through that information and discern, you know, what's important, what's not to you, what's true and what's not to you. You know, and how the pieces fit together. You know, this is like, you know, and most people can't see the forest for the trees. You know, not only do they not have, you know, the mental capacity to even, you know, sit down and truly look at, you know, something, you know, from a neutral perspective, without, you know, their own agenda of ideas and things like that and dogmas. Or have the ability to listen to anyone else for that matter and hear an opposing perspective, especially for any period of time, because they've all got that TikTok brain. Yeah. We've all been so deeply embedded in our own self-righteousness, self-importance, in our opinionated society that we, you know, we think we're all experts on everything now. You know, that's what's the problem with the spiritual community is. Everybody thinks they're a teacher. You know, everybody thinks they're a teacher, but what are they actually teaching? They're teaching attachment. You know, when you say I'm a teacher, what are you actually saying? You're saying I'm doing this because I feel as if you need me to tell you the way that things are, because my opinion is elevated above yours. I have access to knowledge and information that you do not, right? That's what a teacher is. It's the attachment to people outside of themselves, needing them, right, to find awakening, to find enlightenment. It's a joke, is what it is. You know what a real teacher is? A student. A student. A real teacher is constantly learning. That's it. They teach by example. You know, that's why the Tao says, you know, he who nothing, you know, he who knows does not talk. Right? He who knows does not talk. Hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil, right? All of these things begin to make sense because, you know, and you even look at, like, you know, the books of the Kabbalion and all of this, and like how they talk about, you know, casting your pearls before swine. and you hear the masses being referred to by the initiated as useless eaters, as the profane. Why are they profane? Right? They're profaned by their own self-importance. They're profaned by their own ego. They've never experienced a true ego death, you know. For lack of knowledge, surely my people will perish. It takes on a whole new fucking meaning, doesn't it? You know, and we've contaminated ourselves. We have. With our own sense of self-importance. Our own judgment. Judge not, lest ye be judged. Right? And what do we do when we hear of these ancient rituals and all of this? Does your mind automatically... Cheers to you, Carrie. Nice to see you. Does your mind automatically go to this judgmental state where, you know, you hear these things about Jesus and the children and all this, and you know? Or do you have the ability to look at the time, to look at the culture, you know? It makes you understand now why people were willing to sacrifice their children. They truly believed that it was for a greater cause, right? They truly believed that they were, you know, they were directing humanity towards this democracy, right? A fair society where we couldn't no longer be ruled by tyrants, you know. And how these oracles would, you know, say that the only way for democracy requires sacrifice of the blood of tyrants, right? I was with my girlfriend the other day, and when we heard that, you know, she immediately looked at me and she was like, Trump, you know, like Trump. The attempt on his life, the you know, and think about the description of the Antichrist, you know, and this is really probably not going to be a popular video. Think about the description of the Antichrist, you know, and you know, him taking that fatal wound to the head and living. Well, we could look at that in a multitude of ways. We could look at that in a physical manifestation, you know, of Trump, right? Which a trumpet, right? Like these seals that are being opened, right? And seals represent chakras as well, right? And the, you know, MAGA, the cult of MAGA, which comes from the temple of Set, or the temple of Satan, by the way, right? MAGA means magician, right? And even Maria Abramovich, a well-known Satanist, you know, she said that, you know, that the world needed Trump. He's the great magician. That he would create a great awakening. You know, what has been the whole fucking, you know, pop culture movement behind him is the Great Awakening, right? QAnon, right? The Socratic method and all of this. It's like people just don't fucking see it. They don't get it. Why? Because their dogmas don't allow them to. They can't get out of their own fucking way. Trump was sent by God. Yeah. I'm sure he was. Right? I'm sure he was. The God of this world. The father of the lie. Now you start to understand why. You know, and think about it too. That fatal wound to the head and living, right? And this Christos Antichrist, right? This dope antidote, right? And looking at it from this, you know, ritualistic perspective, this occult ritual. The fatal wound to the head and living, right? That's that Theriac, right? That's that Black Death, right? that fatal wound to the mind. You know, that state of mania, that state of psychosis by a brought on by an altered state of consciousness, a high state of consciousness, awakening. Right? Meaning you become that antichrist, that antidote to death. You have the waters of life, right? Flowing, that sacred secretion. When you see the abomination of desolation standing in the temple, right? The third temple. The abomination that causes desolation. Once again, Theriac, right? It's like it all starts to make this fucking, and what to say? Flee to the hills of Judea, right? The hills representing a high state of consciousness, right? It's like it all starts to make sense. It all starts to come together. We all start to see it. You understand that everything within this reality is connected. It is a conscious imprint of us. We are just one fucking giant organism. That's it. That's why the zodiac, correlates to each organ of the body. Right? That's why there's 7 continents, 7 chakras, 7 main planets, 7 colors of the rainbow, 7 days of the week. That's why. And I said this in the last stream, when we look at it this way, it's no fun. It's no fun. It demystifies everything. Right? It takes away from all your alien fuck shit. Right? There's no aliens. You're the alien. It's an extraterrestrial. It means extra dimensional, outside of Terra, outside of the earth. That outer psyche, right? Outside of the collective consciousness. The only thing alien is the fact that these parts of the collective unconscious are fragmented and you are not connected to them. You have to be connected to them through what? These processes of the ritual, right? Which can happen in a multitude of ways. Just the way that we have a billion different frequencies, right? And dimensional aspects of seeing these things, ways of seeing these things. We can see it from the physical, from the mental, from the, the anatomical, spiritual, collective, all of it, right? Astral, astrological, right? All these different ways of looking at reality and these mysteries, and it can all be explained accurately in each way, and it all congruently works together. We are the same way. It's all the same way. The consciousness is the same way, right? These are all different reflections of that same conscious energy, and it's called reality. There's nobody here but you, bro. Nobody's coming to save you. Behold, he comes on the clouds, right? Clouds means what? Consciousness. Every eye will see him, even those who pierced him. Every knee will bow, every tongue will confess, etc., etc., etc. And it really starts to make a lot of sense now, don't it? Why the Canaanites worshipped Baal, right? Right? And you look at the Golden Dawn, and Prince Baal and Astarte, and and all of these things, which is just Venus, right? All these different things, these different concepts, right? And what were they doing? They were sacrificing children, right, to Baal, right, or to Moloch, right? This giant owl. And you see these presidents and world leaders and fucking Kid Rock go into Bohemian Grove, right? And what are they doing? It's an effigy of this burning of the child, right? This sacrificing of the child, right? That's why it talks about those two in the Bible that, you know, that are like children that haven't been exposed to the mysteries, right? They're like children still, you know. You know, milk for babes, right? You see, once you know, you can't unknow. That's the problem. Once you have the knowledge, you are now accountable. You're responsible. You know, you've been told. You've been told. You cannot pretend you didn't hear it. It doesn't matter if you accept it or you reject it, right? Matter of fact, it says you will reject it. You know, you will reject it. You will reject it. And it even talks about how, you know, this process of awakening, and, you know, how you'll be happy you heard it, and then you'll, you know, overcome with, you know, like it's all too, it's fucking delicious when you think about it. Like, honestly, like the way that we perceive things and the way that things actually are. You know, and the links we'll go to deny the very fabric of reality itself, right? And truth itself. You know, we will literally, we'll go to great lengths to do that. If we would put half the effort, half the energy, you know, in actually finding the truth, and actually, you know, discovering oneself, imagine how amazing the world would be. You know, we would start to really understand that there is no good or evil. It's truly only a perspective, in all things. You know, are is exactly as they should be. All things. Everything is constantly working for God, working for our good. Why is that? You know, it really starts to make sense now. And if we're not willing to ask ourselves the hard questions, if we're not willing to accept the answers no matter what they are, then we're lying to ourselves. You know, if we say that we're woke or aware or conscious or anything. You know, let alone you want to try to call yourself a teacher, or say you have some calling on your life to wake up the world, and like so many spiritual asshat clowns literally do. You know, you have no call on nobody else's life, only your own. You can't even wake yourself up. How are you going to wake anybody else up? You know? And I was talking about this last time. It's like, you know, that's why I do this for me. I don't do this for nobody else. I do this for me. I'm sharing my ideas, my thoughts, you know, my revelations with you, my experience. I could care less if you agree or disagree. I could care less if you hate me for it. You know, it doesn't matter to me. This is for myself. This is my process. You don't need me in your process. No more than I need you. The only reason we have one another is because iron sharpens iron, right? We're kicking these ideas back and forth, not because we're dependent upon one another for them, because it sharpens our mind. You know, in order to hear contradicting, you know, perspectives or opposing views and opinions. We're all a node on the universal organism. So how am I to say, from my perspective, my view, right, my eye on the universal organism is that the only view, the only perspective, the only way of looking at a whole? It's fucking insanity, is it not? Be crazy. Think about the arrogance of me even assuming that or thinking that or trying to tell somebody else that. Give me a fucking break. You know, I need your perspective so I can see it from the side or from behind or from underneath or above. right? We were just talking about this, a little earlier, how, I may be at 30,000 feet, but you may be at 40,000 feet, you know? At 40,000 feet, things look a lot fucking different than 30,000. Do they not? That's all we're here to do, is to witness, right? To witness, right? To testify, right? The testimony, right? To give our version. Not for others to depend upon it. And is that attachment that we have to, to that arrogance, to that ego, to even, convincing ourselves that others have to be dependent upon our testimony, our version of things. It's craziness. It's a joke. It makes you feel stupid, to even believe that others need you in the way that you're seeing things. Give me a fucking break, man. The blind leading the fucking blind. New season of ridiculousness. Well, I would say this too. In our world, things are so upside down, so distorted, and so fucking crazy, and so out of tune and out of touch, so disconnected, that what is true, it sounds absolutely ridiculous, absolutely insane. It does, to the common person, especially to the profane, those who profane themselves, right? And I used to hear that term and think, what arrogance, these people thinking they're so much better than all of us, right? The masses. And it's like, the deeper I go on my own journey, the more I see that it's not a statement of arrogance at all. It's not a statement of arrogance at all. It's a statement of truth. Right? People are so absorbed within their own self, within their own sense of importance, that they profane themselves with it. They've stained themselves with it. Right? They've soiled themselves with it spiritually. And that's why when we hear that Faustian bargain of selling your soul, right? That deal with the devil, right? The devil is a double, right? It's a double. It's the one inside the box in the illusion, the concept of time. Remember, 666, right? Represents, 6 carbon and all of that. But it also represents, time. Right, 60 minutes, 60 seconds, 24 hours, 2 plus 4 is 6, right? Time. Those trapped within that, who have bought into their own sense of importance, their own arrogance, their own ego, right? They've sold themselves, they've sacrificed themselves to themselves. They've created a false idol. They worship an idol, which is themselves. That's why their world is never any bigger than themselves. That's why it's so easy to mislead people with all the New Age shit. I've never seen so many people, and I do a lot of I do a lot of tarot, astrology, different, occult and spiritual studies, and self-help, all that stuff. I've been totally immersed in this shit for the last decade, and I've reached millions and millions of people on multitude of platforms, And I've had the experience of seeing how easy it is to sell people on the idea of being selfish. You know, we call it self-love, right? We dress everything up really nice, guys. We do. Um, and we speak to our sense of virtue. It's always to our sense of virtue. You know, that's why it's so easy for us to push forth these agendas, you know, the way that we do. You know, just speak to somebody's sense of virtue. You know, make them feel virtuous in voting for a particular person or passing a particular law, or that they're protecting somebody, or, you know, when it's all based off of fear, right? Self-preservation. And, you know, it's very animalistic. It's very, you know, it's very base in nature. All of it. You know, and it makes us feel important. Our careers, our jobs, our, you know, our religions, our, all of it, our ideas, it makes us feel important. It's that sense of self-importance that continues to drive most people. You know, well, I'm an expert in this and that field, right? That's why they identify themselves. You know, that's why you were able to get so many people during this the scamdemic, right? To be able to sacrifice their morals and values the way that they did. You threatened to take their label away. They identify by their occupation, by their job, right? That's their identity. It's based on that. What do you mean I'm not a nurse anymore? Right? That's my identity. I don't know who I am without my job. Right? And what was that job actually? It was like you selling your dreams for an income. Right? A lot of people's occupation isn't actually what they dreamed or wanted to become. You know? That wasn't what they wanted to be musicians and actors and, you know, and archaeologists and anthropologists and all these wonderful, beautiful things, right? And they traded that dream for 40 hours slavery and 9 to 5. You know, and they've created their sense of self-importance based on that idea, that label that they wear. And they wear that label in a multitude of ways. They wear it based on their sexuality. Do you know that in the Greek there's no word for homosexuality? That they just had sex? They just did what they wanted? You know? Just whatever they were into, they just did it. It was just sex. It was just love. Like there was no... They didn't have labels for those kind of things. And this is like such a complex language. You know, 10 million variations of every word, but they didn't have one word for that. It shows you like the way of thinking compared to us, right? We have society that builds their entire fucking identity off of who they decide to fuck. So it makes sense when you see like a, you know, a gay pride flag and how it's, you know, the rainbow inverted. It's flipped upside down, right? Putting carnality at the top. It makes sense, you know? You know? Pride goeth before destruction. You know, these are people, and not just gay, anything, gender, color, religion. Insert any fucking label here. Insert any label here. And what you'll find that somebody's entire identity is based upon one aspect or attribute of themselves. Whether it's the job they do, who they have sex with, you know, the color of their skin, the geographical location they were born in, you know. which religious text they choose to call theirs. And that's why, every religion in the world is ultimately saying the same thing, in different versions, different variations. It's all that same stream of consciousness. It's just misinterpreted, I mean, it's very easy, if you got, fucking 90% of the world is followers. The other 9% are leaders. You only have 1% that are observers. It's very easy for that 9% of creators and leaders, to capitalize on all of those followers, when they're so one-dimensional. That's why when you look at antiquity too, do you notice every great magician and alchemist and all of it, from Marcus Aurelius to John Dee to all of these people, Nostradamus, right? They didn't just practice one thing. They weren't just doctors. They were astrologists. They were doctors. They were, they were priests. They were all of it. Mathematicians, right? Astronomers. Think about it. I don't care, Galileo, Socrates, all of this. And Socrates dies from what? Hemlock, a poison, right? A ritualistic poison, all of them. Think about it. These were the people that were initiated into the mysteries, and they didn't let one area of expertise define them. They wanted to learn it all. They wanted to learn it all. They were able to open themselves up in a way and access that unfolding of themselves in a way that we just don't do today. We're not willing to. It takes a humility. Humble thyself and be exalted. Exalt thyself and be humbled. Pride goeth before destruction. What is that destruction? It's the destruction of the idea of who the fuck you think you are. It's that ego dying, that ego death, right? And then being born again. Being born again. A new creature in the anointing. One of the things I really loved about, watching Amon Hillman and all of that, is he had this vast knowledge of, just history and everything, and it's talking about, how we see, America and, the United States of America and the Declaration of Independence and, in 1776 and this, this Luciferian, this intellectual renaissance that was being created, for liberty, which is, she's, the god of sexual promiscuity and witchcraft and idolatry, right? She is looking in both directions, she has 3 heads, right? Hecate, Lady Liberty, right? And he talks about how every 100 to 150 years, Thomas Jefferson, right, one of these founding fathers who were all fucking Freemasons, right? They were all builders. And what are they building? They're building that temple, right? We were talking about that, how Solomon's temple is actually, a process built of the reconnection of the collective unconscious, right? Those fragmented parts of the unconscious, or those 200 watchers, those, in the book of Enoch. Right, those pre-Diluvian giants that we're no longer connected to, and when we look at all the rituals and, and modern day Satanists and shit, they're calling out to these demons and these masks right, of consciousness, these energetic archetypes, right? And they're asking for fucking, money and riches and shit like that. Not understanding that, not all, understanding that these are part of the collective, that these are parts of themselves, right? That they are no longer connected to, These are parts of all of us, and we've demonized them. We've demonized them. That's why every ancient god and shit is now a demon. It's now evil because of Christianity, right? And I want you to, think about the Spanish Inquisition and just all the fucking torture and the things that, Christianity has brought to our world. Salem witch trials and, the whole Protestant Reformation, just all of it. Think about it, man. Really fucking think. And you tell me, And it talks about how the true followers of God would be, persecuted, right? They would be persecuted. It would be few that find this narrow gate, this narrow path, right? Few. Christianity is the largest religion in the fucking world. Over 3 billion people practice some form or variant of it. They hated me first. Right? Like I said, the Kabbalion saying that, feeling that the wise, hermeticist, feels nothing but, kind of like looks and smiles, but, feels lovingly, but feels bad for the, the unwise one that's enthusiastic to share his knowledge with everybody, because they know that they'll hear the words crucify him once again. Casting your pearls before swine, right? Swine, a pig, it's an unclean animal. What did Jesus do? He cast demons into what? Swine, right? And they jumped off the fucking cliff, right? That's, that's that mountain, that Mount Sinai, Mount Hermon, Mount Olympus, that high state of consciousness. They took a dive in consciousness and profaned themselves. They were unclean. To me, this is just, my opinion, my thoughts. I think, this is where I think. I think like people like Thomas Jefferson, when they were talking about every 100 to 150 years, there would be insurrections and things like that. They were telling the truth. The Romans were trying to protect democracy from Christianity. That's why freedom of religion was put into the United States, to protect it from being one religion, And you see what they've done, with our society. If we're a Christian nation, how come we're not we blame everybody else for where, this Christian nation has gotten itself to. Like, Christianity got us to this point. So why now that we're abandoning it when the ship is sinking, why now, is it no, we're like, oh, no, Christianity's not responsible for what's going on now. But we're a Christian nation. We need to get back to the shit that got us to this point to start with. Sure. Why not, right? Sounds good. Sounds real good. You know, they don't take any accountability for what actually led us here or led us to this point. You know, it was those dogmas that restricted your liberties. That's everything being built on fear that took away your freedom. Right? That erased your sovereignty. That's what did that. That gave you that slave mentality that, you know, and you know, in the 32nd degree of Freemasonry, that's what you learn, is that you're a king. Right? You're in fact a king of your own earth. Right? Your earth is the land is us, right? It's the heart. You know. That's why everything is all about mastering the self. You know, you learn that nobody has dominion over you. And then you see a whole society of slaves that don't even want dominion over themselves. They take every fucking chance they can to give it away. They will choose fear over love every time. Every time. The pandemic didn't show you that? How many of them sacrificed their morals, their values, their principles, right? Their sovereignty? How many people, you know, participated in the witch hunt against anybody that didn't go along with, you know, what was taking place? You know, when we look at, you know, the Devoc 91 and be possessed by evil spirits and shit like that. Think about all that have fallen victim, you know, to that ritual. Can we really blame a depopulation agenda when people willingly accepted it? Sustainable development. You know why it's sustainable development? Because what we do now is not sustainable, right? So the people that are dumb enough to participate, the people are dumb enough, you know, to give away their sovereignty, that are dumb enough to put poison in all of this, right? We can only be sustained if we were without those people. You know, freedom, you know, freedom is only important when it's threatened, right? When it begins to become threatened of being taken away, then all of a sudden, it retains its importance. You know? We've allowed people to rule us that have a vested interest in backstabbing us and betraying us. They make their wealth and profit off of our death and demise, off of our ignorance. Go back to the notes here. And I knew that I would probably get heavily censored on this video. I don't even care. I don't even care. You know, it is what it is. But it starts to make sense too, like why there was a war on drugs, right? If they have this enlightening effect, right? You know, a war on terror, right? If a terrorist is defined by being an enemy of the state, right? A war on COVID, right? Like, keep it going, right? Like, all of these things are based on some form of destroying your sovereign nature. Yeah. And we've come to a place now to where, you know, we get told, we are told by the masters of our world, right? By your slavers, you know, those whip crackers, you know, yeah, the Biden administration told Facebook to censor, you know, all the Hunter Biden laptop shit. Yes, they said censor COVID. Yes, they said censor this, censor that. Yes. We see proof, you know, that the January 6th Capitol riots was a fucking sham. A fucking sham. It wasn't real. It was a fabrication. It was cinema. It was a story, right? With a designed agenda behind it. And that the very leader of that party was the one who told you to go there. Told you to protest. It's called controlled opposition. You know, if you still believe that he's not one of them, then fine. Keep on believing that. But don't call yourself awake or call other people sheep and shit like that when they don't agree with your dumb ass. You know, in this theater, this Roman theater is the process of putting the population through the act of purification or healing, right? By playing it out, right? It's trying to remove the distortion or the baseness from them. They can't accept the mystery, or they won't initiate themselves into the mystery. They won't put the work in. They won't do anything that's needed to be done to have that knowledge, that gnosis, that enlightenment, that awakening, that awareness. They won't do that, right? So the only way that they can get it into your system is through symbolism. Because your dumb ass won't take it any other way. And they know that your brain is going to soak it in, right? And your collective unconscious, your subconscious is going to pick up on the pattern, whether you do or not. You know, whether you're aware of what's going on or not, you know, you're still going to soak it in and absorb it, and you're going to fall into the frequency and the pattern, whether you like it or not. That's why it's called a hidden hand. Because, you know, Samael, who is the god of the blind, right? They can't see. They don't have the eyes to see and the ears to hear. So they have to be led, right? They have to be led by the shepherd. And they will choose every fucking time to be led to the slaughter instead of freedom, instead of life. Every time, if you leave it up to them. You know, one of the things that Mr. Hillman was saying during his podcast too is that, you know, in the New Testament, there's actually no, you know, the eternal life is not even in a phrase in there. It's called ionic life, which means outside of the stream of time. Remember, the cross is the box broken open. You know? And remember that they're accessing this dark star, right? This mirrored reality, this upside down, where we actually originate from, this astral realm, right? And I want you to think too, um, uh, the melatonin that we produce when our third eye is shut, right? That makes us sleep. We're not able to produce that when our physical eyes are open and we're receiving light. It's actually blinding us and keeping us from tapping into that mirror reality, that mirror world, that astral world, right? If everything in reality is an inverse, then that means that what you perceive to be light is actually darkness. And what you perceive to be darkness is actually light. That's why when we meditate, right, what are we doing? We're shutting out the sun. We're shutting out the light. We're tuning into our own light, our own star. We're producing that melatonin, right? That hypnagogic state, right? Where hemispheric synchronization takes place, and we're able to fucking, through sounds like right? That vibration in the head, right? All of these things, think about it, right? We're able to attain this altered state of consciousness to be able to go back home. When we sleep, we're really in the real world, where there are no rules, right? Where we're actually, consciously creating the stream that we're experiencing, right? Without restriction, That's why they tell you, don't, you'll hear religions and shit say, don't astral project, it's dangerous. Yeah, it is, because you're an idiot. That's why it's dangerous. You're fucking dangerous. You're fucking dangerous. Because you're stupid. That's why. You're so fucked up that when you face yourself, you're going to destroy yourself. That's why you hear people say, oh, they just want you to open your third eye, your pineal gland, because these vampiric entities want to feed off of your spiritual energy. They do. That's also your stupid ass. The distorted, fragmented parts of yourself, the parasitic parts of yourself. Because you've forgotten how, the ability to create. You can only feed. You become parasitic in nature. That's why it's consumerist society. Nobody's producing anything. They're consuming. They're parasites. Like I said, 90%. They say if you know the sacred name of Rome, you can control her power. You know what it reminds me of? How it talks about all of us have like this perfect white stone with a name written on it that only God knows. You receive that when we get to heaven. That's what that reminds me of. Or like the mystery of Babylon. That mystery name. Or the name of God. See all the... these are all coincidences, I'm sure. They're not all saying the same thing, just like they've never been all saying the same thing for the last fucking 8 years that we've been doing videos saying, they've all been saying the same thing. And when you really think about it too, and I want to just talk just for a, a brief moment, we did a little earlier about Aphrodite and Venus, and this Venusian concept, right, which rules love and money and and success and all these things. This energy does, right? And it's copper, which means copper is a conductor. It's a conduit for electricity. Remember, electricity is actually light. It's energy. It's positivity, right? And it's the magnetism that's actually that dark void, right? Or that negativity, that parasitic. It magnetizes, it pulls, right? And in this cult of Aphrodite, how it was all about, free love, basically, right? The women that actually, and this was part of this, that we're talking about, the women that were, were worshipped Aphrodite, were required, once a year to take this journey, where they slept with another man outside of their husband, all night, right? And where they were allowed to, right, to express that love, that energy, that and they would get knocked up and be a child of Aphrodite, right? They get knocked up a lot of times, and if they didn't, they would have to shave their head, right, to show that they were mourning because they were that loyal to their husband. You think of like these hedonistic ideas, and how where we get a lot of, these concepts too, the hedonism, and how they believed in the 1,000 points of light, and that there was so much light and it was put in these fragments of matter or darkness, and that in order to ascend, you had to descend. So they descended, by participating in orgies and things like that, right? Just saying, it really starts to make sense when you really put the pieces together. And why, and we see sex as bad, as wrong. We have a monotheistic, monogamous, well, for the most part, I guess, society. We pretend we are, right? And there's nothing wrong with monogamy at all. But it's like the true concept of love is freedom. It's the freedom to choose, right? Like I have a girlfriend, and I'm not forced any day to choose her. I wake up every day and I choose her, right? I choose her. I consciously choose her. Choose to express my love, my energy, my time towards her, right? It's a choice. I'm not being forced to. Nor is she being forced to by me to choose me. And if one day I ever decided I didn't want to choose her no more, that would be, I would have the freedom to do so, right? That's love, right? That's why they say if you love them, let them go, because love is freedom. And I'm not saying that this would happen if you're watching this. I'm just saying, that, marriage is a matter of the heart. It's a matter of the heart. And true love is a choice. That's why it's not logical at all. It doesn't follow our logic, our ideas of what we think makes sense. And when people marry for things that make sense, those marriages are usually very unfulfilling. They do it because of, money and stability and, all of these, very physical, fucking materialist uh, things. They usually end up having affairs. That's why the divorce rate is so high. It's for the reason they pursued that union to begin with. Remember, marriage is the making of two become one, right? One flesh. It's that act of creation, that act of life. You sound drunk? Well, you sound mad, bro. It's the act of creation, the act of life, and um, we all have this power, right, to procreate, right, to co-create and manifest life through, sexual reproduction, right? That's why it has such a power. That's why sex magic is so powerful, right? It's literally, creation, the power of life and death right there. And it's like we can use this energy for a multitude of things, and I want you to think about, like, when people do perform, sex magic and shit like that. Okay, well, here, I'm gonna help you out, buddy. Okay, now shut your face. And see, and this is just a prime example, right? You sound drunk because I'm too stupid to understand. So you sound drunk, right? Right. Thanks, Carrie. Yeah, piss off. Yeah. Well, it's just and that's just and that's what people do, right? They attack, they demonize things they fear what they don't understand. Trevor's probably, his wife probably cheats on him every day, right? He's probably got her restricted by some financial fucking contract and shit like that. She probably don't even love him or like him. He's probably a living example of being a profane fool, So it's like, why else, he has to defend that, right? People like that have to defend that. Because if they don't, then they have to accept the fact that they're living that lie. It's like, oh, let's attack this guy. He's crazy. He's drunk. Don't listen to him, please. You might start thinking like him, and God forbid you act like him, right? Or act like yourself. God forbid you act like yourself, is what it really means. God forbid you start thinking outside of the box. Start thinking for yourself. Start thinking in terms of, the way that things actually are instead of what you want them to be. And it ain't even your fucking wants. They're the wants you were told that you wanted, right, by society. Right? And like I said, this whole system of morality, and that was really the whole point of all of this. Is to show you that your system of morality is based off of a fucking pedophile ritual, right? Like, whether true or false, right? This is what we've worshipped and revered now for a very long time. Right? This God in the Garden of Gethsemane with a naked boy getting caught and arrested, and then a mob fucking yelling, crucify him. This is what our morality is built off. And we wonder why we're such immoral people, We wonder why, Christianity is such like a judgmental religion, right? The whole symbolism, right? It's symbolized by a guy being fucking tortured on a cross, right? That's the symbology of it. Death and suffering, right? It's a reminder. If you dare think outside of the box, they'll do it to you too. If you dare challenge the system, they'll do it to you too. If you dare to enlighten, to awaken, to initiate yourself, they'll do it to you too. It's a warning, right? It's a deterrent. They do this all the time. They still do it today. You know, you look at the media and shit, you know, and they have all these trials on TV. They make examples out of people. You know? They do it through censorship. Say something unpopular, right? Say, you know, misidentify somebody's gender. Say you're proud to be a race that's perceived to be privileged. When the word slave actually derived from Slavic, which is white people, the first slaves, right? Like, we've all been enslaved at one point in time. That's what humans do. They get power over others with their sense of self-importance, and they use their knowledge, they use their false morality, you know, to conquer the idiots around them. And the conquered idiots are all too happy to be conquered. They want to be. They don't want to think for themselves. That would be too much work. That's right in the background. I don't know if you guys can hear. I can see a guy walking across the parking lot over here. I'm right next to my house. And it sounds like fucking RoboCop. You are trespassing, right? Like this whole police state, surveillance state that we've created based on fear. You know, based on fear. Based on fear. That's what religion's based on. You know, you're afraid to go to hell. You're afraid your neighbor will judge you if they don't see you there on Sunday. But basically, it's really your fear of hell. You know? Because your God is a God like you. You know, it's a reflection of who you are. Right? God is just your creative energy. You know? Your life essence. So it's like if you are a judgmental, hypocritical fuck, then of course, you know, your God's going to be the same. You're going to serve a God like that. You know, you're going to be a judgmental, hypocritical fuck. That's going to rule by fear and control and ignorance, right? That's going to put, you know, materialist and things like that ahead of everything. That's going to consume. That's your God. Think about what we choose as leaders in society, our chosen leaders. Think about how popular Trump is. Why do you think he is? Because it makes everybody else feel comfortable about their own egos. That's the biggest egocentric, you know, motherfucker you'll ever find, you know? That's why there's so many memes and shit always making fun of, I'm the best at this, I'm the best at that, da, 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 da. Right? And this ain't a political statement at all. This is just how it is, dude. You know? He makes everybody feel okay with who they are when they see him. You know, he makes them feel okay with their shit. That's why they'd say, he's one of us. No, he's not. He's playing you because he knows you're weak. He knows you're afraid. He knows you're ignorant. She's no better, the other side, right? She'd go kick everybody out of a gas station and put actors in there to because she's afraid somebody might ask her a question, right? Like, it's two wings of the same bird. And like I was saying earlier, you know, that Roman circus, that Roman theater, it's put that way. You know, and think about it too, the red and the blue. What is red and blue combined? It's purple, right? Right, that color of the Theriac, of the initiation, right? Now I want you to think about that. You know, that red and blue, that's that separation of that division, just to keep you from making the two become one, right? And see, in this theater, it's used to purify the collective, the masses, right? Through the symbology of things, right? By you seeing it being expressed in music and theater and all of these things, that's the only way they can inject it into your consciousness, because they know you'll never do it for yourself. They have to give you the symbolism that way. You have to be able to recognize the pattern that way, because you'll never, and like I said, it's not your active awareness or recognition of that frequency or pattern at all. But it's your brain is so amazing that your unconscious mind is able to perceive the pattern, right? Your unconscious mind is able to perceive and recognize that pattern and begin the process of circumambulation, right? And connect you to that conscious stream, because they're trying to raise the collective conscious, right? And they can't do it without everybody participating. You know, that's why it all seems as if it's mass ritual, because it is, you know. As above, so below, right? You know, they're putting it out into the ether, right? That way, you know, it will actually take hold down here on the physical. You know, and it makes you wonder too, is it all as nefarious as we once thought? Or are we just so distorted in our perception of things, we see everything as nefarious? Because we're evil. And this doesn't mean, like, you know, promoting a new world order or anything like that, but, you know, think about it in a pure form. Would a new world order really be so bad? Everybody being unified as one people? Would it really be that bad? Shouldn't we kind of like be like that anyways? We all live on one planet. You know, we all live on one planet. The fact that we create these borders, and remember, this was the punishment, you know, the Tower of Babel, right, which is language, right? The ability to connect through language, like I was talking about, this unconscious process, right? The collective unconscious being able to pick up on that pattern recognition through the word, right? So this word being spoken is what created this Tower of Babel. It was able to connect the conscious stream, That's why that pyramidal shape, all those pyramids that were built on these energetic ley lines, this earth grid, that particular shape is a conduit, or it's to ferrofluid, right? Or energy. So this energy that comes from the electromagnetic field down, it's able to be harnessed, right? Through the pyramidal shape. How crazy is that? Like they didn't know what the fuck they were doing. You know? And they put it on all of these, you know, these hot spots of energy all across the globe. But we somehow think that they were doing it with sticks and stones and we're stupid or something. No, we're the cavemen. We're the one, we've regressed. We haven't progressed. They have to tell you that because you would be demoralized if they didn't. If they didn't make you think that you were so much more ahead, they couldn't keep you arrogant. Right? That they know that your arrogance, your ego is going to, you know, that's what makes you think that you're smarter than the ancients. That's what makes you think you're so much more advanced. You know, the fact that they were even able to know where those energetic ley lines were with allegedly no technology to accurately map all the stars, to be able to create these shapes that were perfect conduits of energy, and not on just a, you know, a minor level like we see with electrical poles and shit. I'm talking on an earth level, earth energy, from the electromagnetic field, from the poles of energy of the planet. Right? Or the ability to take language and put it into characters, right? That represented energetic frequencies and combine those characters and make words that would take entire concepts of energy, entire streams of thought, and activate them. That's what type of shit they were on. And you think you're doing better. You think they were savages and barbarians and, you know? We don't know what living is. We don't know what living is. We've never lived. Not truly. You know, it's like, you know, a lion, you know, being born in fucking captivity as one opposing to the wild, right? They lived in the wild, you're born into captivity. You know, you've got the illusion, right, of this nice zoo here, right? But the trees are fake. The background's painted on. You know, you could never truly survive if you had to. You're being fed. You don't know how to feed yourself. You know? And that's what these mystery schools and these, you know, these initiations were about, right? Was the teaching of somebody, you know, to learn how to feed themselves spiritually, consciously. To integrate them into that collective pattern, right? Except they were aware of the pattern, unlike you and me, or most of us, right? We get it. They've had, and it's wild too. Our televisions and all of these things are, you know, they're radios or the internet, right? They've had to create all these tools and gadgets, right, to artificially integrate us into this conscious pattern, right? This old stream of consciousness that we think is so new. You know, but it actually comes around every cycle's in. That's why, you know, in the Kolbrin Bible, right, it talks about how the passing of the destroyer right, which is that dark star, right, that mirrored reality, that upside down, right? When they came down from the mountain, when they came down from that high state of consciousness, they forgot their gods and their guides and all of that. You know, that's why. That's why it talks about the gods would return one day. You know, the Anunnaki from the heavens came. It's you, dude. You're the Anunnaki. There are no ETs and aliens and shit like that. There's nobody but you. Reported, literally reporting me. Well, go report me, pussy. I don't care. And what would somebody even report this for? Do you see what I mean? Like, what are you going to report for? I don't like what he's saying. I have a free choice to tap in and watch it, but I don't like what he's saying, so I don't want it to be said at all. It makes me look at myself. He's making me look at myself, and I don't want to see my ugly reflection. Report that. What you need to do is report yourself for being so foolish, so weak. And the weakness isn't in being deceived. We've all been deceived. There's no shame in that. The shame is once you're aware of it, choosing to stay in that energy, choosing to stay in that place. Right? And the more people that, you know, talk shit and report and do those things, you know, they don't understand they're actually having the opposite effect. You know, because these are people who don't understand how the energy works. You know, the more you resist, the more you're telling the universe you need it. So the more the universe is going to send that energy at you because it knows you need the experience to learn the lesson. You know, you can cover your ears and close your eyes all you want, right? And pretend that things aren't happening. Pretend that the world isn't the way, you know, it truly is, but it's not going to change anything. You know? Ignorance is ignoring what is right in front of your face. That's the truest definition of it, you know, and that's why, you know, people sit in that ignorance, right? Because they're afraid that if what they've worshipped their whole life as God isn't really God, that if what they've given their sovereignty and their power over to, and these governments and these religions and all of these different things in this materialist world isn't true, that they're in big trouble if their life depends on themselves. Right? They're afraid. They're afraid. If all of this is a lie, then what does that make me? Right? What does that make my life? I know. Tiamat will change our world, John. People don't have any idea about the beast in our skies. They don't have any idea about the beast in themselves, let alone the skies. You know, like I was saying, like, you know, we all have that, you know, you're looking at things, Blue, from an altitude of that 30,000 feet, right? They're still looking at that altitude of 500 feet. right? They can't perceive it. They can't even wrap their heads around it. You know. And instead of like, taking the time, the energy, right, to like really just measure these things and discern what's real and what's true, it brings up fear in them, and they hide from it, they run from it. And seeing a lot of people consider, that a person would even be willing to say these things as arrogance, as ego, as, but it's really, there's no arrogance in it. It should be humbling, right? It should be humbling. It really should, to know that we're really children in the scheme of things when it comes to, consciousness. Like we're just now coming into a place where we're maturing again. It should be humbling. The spiritual communities, they all have, a sense of arrogance to them. And I understand people's frustration. It's fucking frustrating, when you have people that are, and a lot of people are like paid to troll, and they work for alphabet agencies and shit like that, and there's agendas behind some of that. And then there's, just the others that just do it because that's who they are, that mob mentality of like wanting to lynch some or crucify him, right? That wanting to lynch anybody that's different, right? I mean, I'm allowed to be different if I cut off my penis, right? Because that's acceptable in society. That's actually noble right now, which also is part of the cult to the Great Mother, right? That's where all the eunuchs and castration and all that actually comes from. So if I do that, then I'll be revered. I'll blow up, right? Everybody will congratulate me and tell me how brave I am. I'll gain tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of followers overnight. I'll be monetized everywhere. I won't be allowed to be censored because it'll be discrimination. And I might even be on TV. Yeah. Shit, I could be Woman of the Year. But if I think differently, and I say that I think differently, and I say something that might empower you, or stir something up in you, like I want you to be angry. I want you to be frustrated. I want this to manifest within you. That way you'll get off your fucking ass and do something about it. And I'm not talking about going and protesting and playing into the, the psychological warfare games that, they all want to put you in. No, I'm talking about do something for yourself internally, right? I want to inspire you to like look into it. I want to inspire you to be like, okay, this fucking psycho bastard on YouTube is saying this and that. I disagree, so I'm going to go look at the source, right? I'm going to go see if this is real or not. I'm going to challenge my beliefs. I'm going to challenge myself. And if I find out that it is true, if I find out that it's based in any truth, I'm going to pursue it and see where it leads me. And I'm going to accept whatever that truth is, no matter if it feeds into my dogmas, no matter if it's convenient for the lies I've been living or not. And you know what? Once I have embraced my new truth or my truth, whatever that may be, I'm going to adjust my life accordingly and be accountable for myself. Right? That's what I would like to inspire. And it's not because you need me. You don't need me. You don't need anyone. But you need you. You know, and some people aren't showing up for themselves. You know, and sometimes the only way to get a person to really fight for themselves is to back them into a corner. You know, and we've been spiritually neutered, you know, honestly. You know, we're told like, hey, you know, we're going to use these ideas and use this fear to make you bow down and accept whatever is being, you know, told to you. And that's where people's natural inclination goes now. Like they just, you know, out of fear, they just, you know, they kowtow and they just, they roll the fuck over and capitulate. Right? But some people get tired of rolling over. Some people get tired of capitulating. You know, some people don't have that genetic weakness or that genetic disposition. They, you know, it's in them. It's their ancestors, you know, are wrapped all around them screaming like, hey, remember. Remember who you are. Remember where we come from. Remember who we are. Remember where we come from. Remember what we created and why we did it and where it will take us. You have amnesia. You know? We went through a rough patch consciously. We fell. Our intellect fell. We fell. Not because we were weak, because that's how energy goes. It's ebbs and flows, man. It's ups and downs. It's peaks and valleys. It's the push and the pull. It's the pendulum, the momentum. It's the poles. You are in the midst of a pole shift. And it's not what you've been taught, that fearful, you know, version of, you know, the world flipping upside down and, you know, you being swallowed up by the fucking oceans and every, you know, apocalyptic movie you've ever seen. It's not that version. The apocalypse is taking place within you. The apocalypse means a revealing. It means a revealing. It's having your eyes open, the scales taken off your eyes. That's why it says that God will cast his net, his magnetic net, it's our field, our electromagnetic field. It's the energetic field, the quantum field. Right? Calling his, gathering them together, refining them by the fires of affliction, purifying them like gold. Right? The fires of affliction, which, you know, we do know relates to that burning purple and that theriac, right? That black death. That process of that mania, that psychosis, that awakening, that conscious experience and awakening. But it's also, though, right, that dark night of the soul, right? That ego death. It can take place without drugs, by the way. Takes more work that way, right? A lot more work. But at the right time, and you know, and you got to think, and in these cycles, when this energetic stream isn't as available, they had to use these things to step into that state. You know, during that Piscean age, we're at such a low state of consciousness, right? You know, Bronze Age and shit like that. It's not as available as it is now as we enter the Aquarian age, right? And we're in the midst of a pole shift, right? That conscious stream wasn't available as it is now, or like in the time of the Egyptians, right? It was very readily available, you know? And it is now, today. That's why knowledge will increase, right? That's why. Because it's available. The stream's available. You're able to tune into that radio station very easily now. The frequency, the signal it's a strong frequency, it's a strong signal. You know why? Because particular energies are aligned in certain ways, right? And that's what it all ultimately boils down to. That's why I talk about this stuff so much, right? It's just trying to drill it into your head how the mechanisms of it all works. Then once you understand how we receive, the frequencies, how the stars are pulsating, right? Light, right? Frequency. Each star made up of an energetic archetype, an energetic frequency, giving off a particular vibe, if you will, right? And that where we are in juxtaposed to them and in position to them, that what's being amplified by our central star, our sun, and where it is in the zodiacal wheel, the cycle of time, right? The yuga, right? That's what's amplified and available. Just like I said, with our zodiac sign, like our own personal selves, like we amplify that because we were born in a particular zodiacal sign as it was being amplified. I'm a Virgo season, Virgo energy is amplified through me, right? Among many others, because I'm a multifaceted being. I'm connected to every celestial body because I descend from there, right? I am a fallen angel. So are you, but I am a Nephilim. I am a Jagitos, right? I am a giant. Or I was, and so was you. That's why we're remembering, right? We're putting the body back together. We're putting the pieces back together. And we need to challenge ourselves with strong things like, what was Jesus, using, children for this and that. If you can't challenge what's nearest and dearest to you, then you can't challenge yourself at all. It's not, you don't truly believe it, if it can't even be challenged. It's not true. It's like I seen a podcast very shortly after, that one in particular. And this, supposed Bible scholar comes on there, and the only thing that he could say about anything that was being spoken about was that it was nonsensical and irrational and da-da-da. There was never, not one piece of evidence to say why it didn't work or why it wasn't true. Just any biblical scholar would say that's nonsensical. Why, though? Why would they? Because they've been indoctrinated to say so. Just like we've been indoctrinated into a series and system of beliefs. Just because we were indoctrinated into it does not make it true. I hate to tell you. Truth is self-evident, and it stands on its own. And if the things I was saying wasn't true, then they wouldn't be able to connect in every aspect of reality, every aspect of being. I'd be like the Bible scholar saying, well, it's because I say so. It's just because I say so. It's those type of people. They have an agenda, right? Like the dude that says reported. That's an agenda, right? He has an agenda to silence dissent, right? To censor So, no, it is, it's getting late here where I'm at, so, I do believe I'm gonna wrap this one up. But, before I do, though, I do want to remind you to, think about this water of life, this ionic stream of life outside of time, right? And how that's actually accessed, right, through that pineal, right? By shutting out, right, that external, right, and accessing the internal. The only way out is in, And if you are the children of God and God is the creator of all, right? Then who are you to your own solar system, your own planets, right? Which are your chakras, right? Who rules your system? Who rules your universe? You're learning. You're being taught to rule your own. Well, thank you, Graceful Heart. I appreciate you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Glad you enjoyed it. And I want to take you back to Mark 14:51 and 14:52, and I just want to remind you, a young boy wearing nothing but a linen garment was following Jesus when they arrested him, and he dropped his bandage and ran off naked. It's right there. It's right there, and it's in the language. The etymology of the words is how we understand all of this. Right? These are the mysteries. That's why it all makes too much sense. And you can choose to experience it one of two ways. You can choose to experience this stream of consciousness through self-initiation, right? Through self-initiation, by going through the process of circumambulation within yourself, right? Reaching that degree of influence to where you yourself have realized your own sovereignty, your own divinity. You can do that, or you can choose to experience it secondhand. Believe you're so self-important, and believe everything that you're told. And instead of fishing for yourself, you can just allow society to keep catching the fish for you, right? And then starve, right, when they stop doing it. You can see that outside perspective, and that stream of consciousness will still reach you, by the way, right? It's still going to hit that collective unconscious through your television, the radio, all the symbolism and all of that. You're just not going to be aware of it. You're getting it either way. You can't stop what's taking place either way. This is bigger than you, believe it or not. There's things that are bigger than you. Even though people think everything revolves only around them, we're all experiencing, this at the same time. All of our world is revolving around us, but it's all, we're all part of the same organism, right? Having a collective experience, right? That's why we see, things like the 100th monkey and all of this. It's like one monkey picks it up, we're all connected. We all pick it up eventually. You cannot stop what is taking place, no matter how hard you try, no matter how much you censor, no matter how much you kick and scream and close your eyes. It won't happen. So, and we fear what we don't understand. And for lack of knowledge, right, that's how we perish. Right? So, my suggestion would be, do some soul searching, seek some knowledge, right? and understand that there truly is a mystery in the heart of man, and a mystery within yourself that is greater than anything you could ever imagine. It's bigger than anything you could ever imagine, more profound than anything you could ever imagine. You know, but you have to humble yourself, you know, to have that exaltation, to be able to experience that. You know, you have to be willing, you know, and you know, it says, ask and you shall receive. So it's like, you know, go within you. You know, talk to God, however you see God, right? Talk to your God, your creator, right? And say, I'm coming to you humbly, right? Please teach me the truth. Show me the truth no matter what it is. I want to know the truth about Jesus. I want to know the truth about you. I want to know the truth about it all. I want to know the truth about myself. Reveal the mysteries to me. Take the scales from my eyes. Open my mind. And show me how to feed myself. Teach me how to fish. Make me a fisher of men. Right? So, and you do that, and I guarantee your entire fucking life changes. Right? And it may seem like a disaster at first, right? As you're going through that awakening, that process, and all of the illusion and the lies and the ego is just falling to the wayside, and you know, and it all seems like that's the refinement, the fire by affliction, right? It's only the afflictions you've caused yourself by what you're attached to in this world, right? Nobody's doing it to you. You did it to you. Right, and once you've removed, you know, and paid your karmic debt, so to speak, once you've balanced the scales, once you've made the two sides become one, those two pillars become one, once your eye is single and your whole body is filled with light, I promise you, you will be able to tap into something that will absolutely amaze you, and find that reality is nothing like what you thought it was, and you are far greater and far more than you ever thought you could be. So, I want to thank each and every one of you for watching tonight. Those who did join me, please make sure to hit the thumbs up if you're in the chat. Keep in mind, we are viewer powered. I'm demonetized and all that good stuff. So if you'd like to donate to support the channel, support my work, everybody who supports me at all, or ever has, or ever will, big ups and big thanks to you guys. I am so grateful, and I'm so appreciative of it. You know, I appreciate those who give. And hopefully you accept what I'm giving to you. You know, it's just a energetic trade-off, I guess. You can do that by PayPal, Cash App, Facebook Messenger, or joining me over on Patreon. I'm going to do a full presentation of this on Patreon on the computer, and, you know, show you all the language and all of that, probably tomorrow or the next day. So be something to look forward to. If you would like to book tarot readings, astrology charts, any type of spiritual work, whether, you know, I've done dream interpretations, fucking, you name it, right? Protection, love, all of it. Text 513-393-2396 or email therealbestdampodcast@gmail.com. Follow me, Instagram, Facebook, Best Damn Podcast, Twitter, The Real Best Damn. There is a backup channel here on YouTube. It's a Best Damn Podcast 2. And I think it's at Best Damn Podcast. The main one's Best Damn Podcast Official. Yeah, I think that's about it. Make sure to share this. Comment. It helps with the algorithms. Share it. Get it out there for others to see. And make sure to subscribe and click the bell. I love all of you guys. I hope you have an awesome, awesome evening. Thank you so much for watching and your support. And I'll see you next time.